Imagine this for a second. You've got this physical thing going on. Maybe it's a nagging ache deep in your lower back, just always there. Or maybe it's migraines that just hit you out of the blue, completely floor you. And you've done the rounds, right? Seen the doctors, had the
Yeah.
tests, the scans, and they tell you, well, structurally, everything looks fine. There's no clear, like, material reason for this pain you're feeling every single day. It's frustrating. But what if that pain, that symptom that just won't quit, isn't actually a glitch in the system? What if it's a message, a kind of physical SOS from a part of yourself that your conscious mind has been maybe a bit too good at ignoring? That's the really big, kind of unsettling question we're digging into today. We're looking at this curious, sometimes tricky aspect of being human, our amazing ability to not feel what we're actually feeling, and how those unfelt emotions, the ones we push down, can eventually show up as real physical problems. So our mission here is to kind of weave together some ideas from psychology and philosophy, really, to give you a clearer picture of that mind-body link, the psychosomatic connection. But I guess to understand how the body starts, talking, we first need to get why our minds are so set against feeling certain things. Why do we resist?
Yeah, that's the starting point. It really boils down to a kind of internal calculation almost. The mind, well, its top priority often seems to be keeping things calm, maintaining equilibrium, self-preservation, you know. So when it's faced with something really painful, maybe intense anger or deep sadness, or even something like envy, it often decides that forgetting is easier than understanding. It's almost an efficiency thing. There's this idea of putting up a thin psychological curtain. It sounds poetic, but it's quite functional. We sort of actively choose ignorance, unconsciously maybe, because facing those feelings head on feels too threatening, might disrupt our whole sense of self, our day-to-day peace.
Okay, let's unpack that. So you're saying over time our minds can become like dumping grounds filled with all this unprocessed stuff, anger, guilt, sadness, whatever, just because we didn't feel brave enough to really look at it at the time. And we might actually believe we're fine, totally okay, while underneath there's this huge emotional storm brewing.
Exactly that. It's a defense mechanism, and it can be incredibly sophisticated. But yeah, often self-destructive in the long run. We resist feeling these things because they clash with the image we have of ourselves. They challenge our sense of being calm, rational, good people. They threaten what some call our gratifying illusions about who we are.
But hold on, don't we kind of need some illusions? I mean, a little bit of smoothing things over just to get through the day, interact with people. Why is this denial seen as so bad if it helps us function?
That's a really important point.
Hmm.
The issue isn't necessarily like polite social filtering. It's when the denial becomes total, an absolute internal block on reality. It's not just managing impressions, it's constructing a whole false narrative inside. We convince ourselves we are only kind or completely secure or never irrational. Think about some of the examples often used. They can feel quite sharp when you hear them. We tell ourselves internal lies, maybe daily, like denying anger. Oh, I couldn't possibly feel angry at my beloved old aunt. I'm a kind person.
Oh,
Or
well,
dismissing sadness. I'm not upset. I wasn't invited to that thing. I don't care about trivial social stuff anyway.
right. Or the envy one. That feels particularly potent. I'm just not the kind of person who'd ever be jealous of someone else's success or their advantages. Mm. So by sticking to these stories, we keep our anxiety down, maybe prop up our self-esteem, but it sounds like that comfort comes at a hidden cost.
It does. Because while most of our mental energy might be going into maintaining this curtain, this state of forgetting,
Mm.
there's another part of us at work.
Hmm.
A smaller part, maybe, but incredibly persistent.
Ah, so this is where the conscience comes in, the part that wants the truth.
Yes, exactly. The internal advocate for reality, you could say. The conscience is that bit of us that just keeps pushing for acknowledgement no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. It's described sometimes as this notoriously insistent and ingenious part of us that just won't let us rest easy in our illusions. Its job is basically to disrupt the lie.
Okay, so this is where things start to escalate, right? Before it gets physical, this conscience tries other ways to get our attention. It has like an early warning system.
It does. It usually starts with the mind. It tries to poke holes in that psychological curtain, trying to jolt us out of our self-imposed ignorance. Its first alerts tend to manifest psychologically. It doesn't send a polite email. It might trigger, say, a sudden bout of anxiety or maybe strange mood swings.
Like inexplicable mental static.
Yeah, or even more concrete things. Perhaps chronic anxiety that doesn't seem attached to anything specific, certain physical twitches, maybe even obsessive thoughts or compulsions that feel totally random. These are basically the conscience's attempts to make life uncomfortable enough that we're forced to look deeper, to ask, hang on, what's really going on here?
So maybe we start having weird fears, or obsessing about something minor. It's the mind trying to signal distress, but indirectly.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
But here's the crucial turning point. This is the real so what for our whole discussion today. If we manage to ignore these psychological signals, if our defenses are so strong that the mind just won't let the message through the conscience doesn't just, give up, it changes tactics, it shifts its focus. And it often does this by, well, setting to work on the body.
Wow. Okay, so if we don't hear the mental alarm bells, that's the trigger for it to become physical. The lack of conscious awareness basically forces the issue into our physical experience.
Precisely. If the intellect, the conscious mind, fails to reckon with it, the body is forced to speak, or rather forced to feel. It feels the emotion, but in the form of a physical symptom, because we wouldn't allow ourselves to feel it as an idea, an insight, or just raw emotion. It's almost like literal translation, the psychological burden gets converted into a physical one.
And there's this idea, almost like mapping it out, that specific emotions tend to land in specific parts of the body, like emotional dumping grounds inside us.
It's often described that way, yes.
Yes.
It's a powerful way to think about it. So if the mind absolutely refuses to acknowledge, say, deep-seated, maybe suppressed anger, real rage, that feeling might get sort of sent to settle in the lower back, it doesn't vanish. It just takes up residence there as chronic pain, often the kind that physios struggle to explain or fix.
Okay. Or what about anxiety, like that free-floating worry about security or the future?
If that isn't dealt with psychologically, if we refuse to admit, I feel deeply insecure right now, it might be, as the idea goes, relegated to the gut, manifesting as things like chronic digestive issues, IBS, constipation, the body literally feeling blocked or in knots.
And there was a really striking example about romantic frustration or sadness.
Yes, the denial of deep sadness about connection or lack of intimacy. The suggestion is stark. Denying that level of emotional pain might literally start to impact the heart itself, potentially contributing to things like arrhythmias or other cardiac issues.
Yeah.
That's unsettling, isn't it? The point is, these unfelt feelings don't just evaporate. They can become very real, very material things. Back pain, insomnia, those splitting migraines. The body is trying to tell us something.
Which brings us to the difficulty when we actually try to get help for these things.
Yeah.
You go to a doctor, and obviously you absolutely should rule out physical causes first. That's critical. But they're typically looking for a mechanical fault, right? A problem with the structure, a chemical thing, an infection. They're trying to fix a material malfunction.
Exactly. And even the most caring, skilled doctor might not know to ask about your emotional history in that specific way. They're probably not asking about your relationship history or patterns of denial or, there's this blunt phrasing sometimes used. They're often not considering that it might be an ex-partner who has broken our kidney or a stifled rage against our father that is freezing up our vertebrae. Sounds dramatic, but it captures that disconnect.
And just to be super clear for anyone listening, we're really focusing here on situations where physical causes have been thoroughly looked for and ruled out. In those cases, the pain is absolutely real. It hurts. But its origin isn't primarily physical. It's rooted in that emotional history, that denial. The body's just become the unwilling messenger.
That's the crucial context, yes. The symptom is real distress, not just in your head in the dismissive sense. It's very much in your body, but perhaps because it wasn't allowed in your head.
Okay, so if the body is basically shouting, but our conscious mind has its fingers in its ears, what do we do? It sounds like the cure isn't just about managing the symptom, but about doing some deeper internal work. To kind of spare our bodies from having to carry this burden, we need to learn the language.
That's the core idea. It's about what's sometimes called the repatriation of concern. Repatriation here means bringing it back home, essentially, reversing that process of denial and offloading. It's about reclaiming the feeling, bringing the concern back from the physical body where it got stuck and allowing it into the mind where it can finally be consciously felt, understood, processed.
That sounds quite abstract. How do you actually do that? How do you repatriate a feeling that's maybe manifesting as, say, shoulder pain?
Well, there's a technique, almost like a guided meditation, designed to try and bypass that protective, lying part of the conscious mind. It's a kind of self-diagnosis. It involves finding a quiet moment, maybe lying down, closing your eyes, and then you mentally scan your body. You bring your awareness to different areas, your heart, your stomach, your shoulders, maybe the specific spot where you feel that chronic pain. And then, addressing that specific part of your body, you ask it silently a very direct question. If you could speak, what might you want to tell me?
Asking your shoulder what it wants to say. It sounds a bit strange, but I can see how it might get past the usual mental defenses. And the idea is that the body, being this kind of reluctant truth teller, might just give you the straight answer, bypassing all the stories we tell ourselves.
That's the hope. The clarity that can sometimes emerge can be quite startling. Someone might do this and suddenly have this strong sense, this realization, that their constantly tense shoulders are just screaming, this relationship needs to end. A truth they've been denying for months, maybe years.
Wow. Or your stomach, always churning, might suddenly feel like it's saying, you have to stop taking on so much responsibility at work, it's crushing you.
Mm,
Or your lungs feel tight and the message is, I need to grieve, or I need a chance to just scream. Maybe your ribcage acts because deep down it's just exhausted from pretending to be happy all the time.
exactly. The physical symptom is revealed in that moment as a kind of a mute form of revenge. Revenge for all the true, necessary feelings and thoughts we've pushed away for the sake of seeming okay or keeping the peace. And the healing, the shift, happens not necessarily when the physical pain instantly vanishes, but when we finally consciously endure the truth. Once that concern, that feeling is brought back into the mind, repatriated, the body can often relax its grip. Its job as messenger is done. The message has been received, even if it's painful to finally acknowledge. The mind is bearing the reality it tried so hard to flee from.
That really ties it all together. That physical pain, the symptom that doctors can't explain, might actually be the most honest communication we get from our own hidden self. It forces us to see that the price of denying our truth is often paid, quite literally, in the currency of physical suffering.
So if you accept that pain can be a signal, then the really vital question to ask yourself is, what assumptions are you holding on to right now about your life, your calmness, your character, the way things have to be? What assumptions might your own body be trying to shatter with its discomfort? What specific mute agony in your life could be a form of localized revenge for an emotion you've refused, maybe for a long time, to truly feel? That internal audit, asking those questions, that's where the real work can begin.
A really powerful thought, and perhaps a necessary one to reflect on as you go about your day. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the body's often silent but deeply insistent language.